Hello YouTube, it's Supernova and we're here with IL2 Battle of Stalingrad and its mission editor. Today we're going to create a single player mission. That will involve a section of 2 aircraft taking off and navigating to a second airfield where it will land. As it's taxiing to the runway, a second section of 2 aircraft will approach and land at the first airfield. The first thing we'll need to do under my properties, under mission properties, under the name, we'll change that to tutorial. Now in the date we'll change that to August 15th 1942 and we'll change the time to 8:30 AM. Under mission we'll select single, and as the author we'll enter our name. Now the map depends on a terrain preset, and to change the map we will select that from the list. I'll go with the default of Lapino summer. It'll prompt us to save it, and I will do that by calling it tutorial, and we will change the GUI map to Lapino summer and edit the atmosphere conditions. Under clouds we will choose medium clouds, no precipitations, and we don't need to set the level of precipitations as a consequence of that. Now when it comes to the wind options, we are not setting that on the direction the wind is coming from, but rather the direction in which the wind is blowing to. So we will be taking off in the direction of 135. So to get the correct wind heading we have to add 180 degrees to that, so we get a value of 315 and have a wind speed of 1. Now you can set wind speed and direction also at 500 meters, at 1000 meters, at 2000 meters, and also at 5000 meters. We're going to leave turbulence at 0. Temperature and pressure we're going to leave as the default, and we have no need to change the sea state, and that is now done. Description, I'm going to enter a simple description. The thing to note here is that you can use HTML markup, so we would simply use basic HTML. You could use bold or italic, for example, for that, and that is a basic setup. Now the next thing we have to think about is that we have quite an empty map. There aren't any buildings or installations, so we've quite easily changed that by importing from file. Now we're going to look at 2 particular elements here. The first is Lapino all, so we'll load that in, and when it's complete the map will be populated, as you can see, with a large amount of buildings. You can see, let's see if we can group the objects. As one, but anyway, that is all done. We've grouped all those, which is another subject in itself. Now the second thing that we need to do is import from file, and we'll import all the taxi paths, which as you can see happen quite quickly. Okay, now as you can see, grouping just tidied the map up. Now what we need to do here, zoom in on Stepnoy. Now as you can see, the name is a little bit of gibberish, so we'll change that for ease of use to Stepnoy. Now the importance of these what are called fake fields is that it defines the charts. As you can see, 0 is park, 17 is park, and in between those you have taxi and VPs. You can change these by, for example, if I can find one, it's easy to edit. Just find the node and then drag it around. Now the VPs define the start and the end of the runway. Okay, now we've seen that one. We'll zoom out and we'll find Lapino. Again, we'll change the name to make it more readable. And as we zoom in, edit chart, you can see again there is a chart defining parking, taxiways and the runway itself. So now we have our start point and our destination identified. We're going to start at Stepnoy. Now I'm going to switch from 2D to 3D mode, as you can see there. Now we can pan around with the mouse or the left mouse button down to tilt it. Now you can see the icon toggle camera. We'll go for a top-down view. As you can see, there are three structures here, three kind of bunkers. We're going to put an aircraft in two of the three. And we'll click planes, select BF109F4, and then place it in the middle of the first bunker. What I want to do here is to click set on ground to make sure that it's actually sitting on the ground and it's not buried in it. And we will rotate the aircraft with the red box, pointing in the direction required. And we'll call it Raven 1. Now we're going to create a linked entity which allows us to properly edit it. Right click the icon, advanced properties. First thing we'll do is change the AI to player, so as we enter this mission we will have control of this aircraft. We'll change the country to Germany. It's already set on parking. We'll use the default skin and we'll change the call sign to Raven 1. And that's our aircraft defined. Again, click on BF109F4, place it, rotate it, and set on ground, and we'll call it Raven 2. We'll again create a linked entity. This time we'll double click AI, we'll leave that on normal, Germany on parking, and we'll change the call sign to Raven 2. So now we have two aircraft defined, but there isn't a relationship between the two. To change that, to make Raven 2 wingman to Raven 1, we'll select object menu, add target, click Raven 1, and now you have a red line indicating the relationship between the two aircraft. So wherever Raven 1 goes, Raven 2 is going to follow. And that is the first step in creating this mission. Now what we'll do is we'll go back to the 2D map view for the next stage. Okay, now we have a section of two aircraft defined, and we'll start to create the flight plan. The first thing we'll do, we need to click MCUs. Right at the bottom of the list, trigger waypoint. In fact, before we do that, we'll use a command takeoff. And we're going to place the takeoff on the runway. And we're going to link that, object link that with Raven 1. So now it's associated with that. So we zoom out and select trigger waypoint, find a spot roughly between the two, and we have a trigger waypoint there. We'll change that to Raven Waypoint 1. Now we'll select the altitude for that at Y. We'll set that to 1,000 meters. Now double click that to get the advanced properties. Now we have a field here, priority. Now priority defines how important it is for an aircraft to actually go to that waypoint. As an example, if you have a fighter that is going to a waypoint with a low priority set and it sees enemy aircraft in the distance, it will disregard the waypoint and fly towards the enemy aircraft. With high priority, it will always go to that waypoint. It will ignore the enemy aircraft. So we'll leave that as medium. Area defines the radius around the waypoint that you have to enter in order to trigger that waypoint. We'll set that at 200 meters. And speed, we'll set that to 400 kilometers per hour. At this point, the values aren't really that important. We will edit those after testing. So that done, we click OK. Now again, we have to object link that back to Raven 1. So now the first waypoint is selected. Now with Raven Waypoint 1 selected, we will left click on the map and place a second waypoint near Lapino. As you can see, it's already object linked back to Raven 1. And we'll left click to get out of that so that they are single selected. And we'll change that to Raven Waypoint 2. We'll change the altitude to 200 meters. And I'll double click it. And we'll change the speed to 250 kilometers an hour. So we have a takeoff, we have 2 waypoints, and now let's place landing. So we select Command Land, click on the runway, and if we go back to Raven Waypoint 2, we'll add a target and select Command Land. So now we have a complete flight plan. We have takeoff, we have 2 waypoints, and we have the command to land. And of course the last thing we need to do, add object, and link it to Raven 1. So that process is now complete. Okay, now we want these 2 aircraft to follow a particular formation when they're flying. So we're going to select command formation, click it somewhere, put it down somewhere near Raven section, and find object, link it to Raven 1. We'll double click it. Formation type we'll set as plain, right edge form, and density we'll set to loose. So now we have a formation set for the 2 aircraft. Okay, now that we have the formation and the flight plan set up, we need to start to activate them. To do that, we click Raven 1, look at advanced properties, and we add a couple of events. First event will be type on plane took off, and we find the target for that, which is going to be Raven Waypoint 1. Double click that, click OK. Now you can see it has an event type associated with it. We add a second event type, which is again on plane took off, and this time we add command formation. So now it has 2 events. Once it takes off, it will start to fly to waypoint 1 and it will adopt its formation. Okay, now we have all of that set up, we need to actually activate it. And to do that, we will select Translator Mission Begin from MCUs. We'll place that on the map, and we will find target and link that to command takeoff. So when the mission begins, it will activate command takeoff. Okay, the last thing that we're going to do here, we're going to create a second flight, which we're going to call Hawk Flight. So we'll go back to planes, and we'll put down an aircraft here. We'll call it Hawk 1, and we'll give it an altitude of 200 meters. create a linked entity, double click it. AI is set to normal, country Germany. This time we'll set it to being in the air, and for its call sign, Hawk 1. Then create a second aircraft. This time we'll call it Hawk 2. Again, give it an altitude of 200 meters. Create a linked entity. And again, set it to Germany in air. Hawk 2. And as before, we will target link it to Hawk 1 to define it as its wingman. That done. We create a waypoint. And we will link that waypoint to Hawk 1. We'll rename it as Hawk Waypoint. Double click it. Change the speed to 250 kilometers an hour. We'll leave the area at 20. And we will then create a command land. We'll go back to our waypoint and we will find target. We'll also object link that to Hawk 1. And we will also, if we take this mission begin, we will find target and link that to Hawk Waypoint. And we will just quickly start integrity check, and it has passed integrity. So that is now complete. So we now have a simple single player mission. As it begins, we will be sitting in parking as leader of Raven flight or Raven section. Hawk section will be coming into land. And when we take off, we will fly to Raven Waypoint 1, Raven Waypoint 2, and then we will land at Lapino. Hope you enjoyed that tutorial on the IL2 mission editor. I hope you found that useful, and as always, if you did, feel free to like, comment and subscribe, and I hope to see you again for the next IL2 Battle of Stalingrad video.